Today's topics are going to discuss how to help you make better choices while eating out, while dieting, and also why it may be something that's stalling your progress as well, and maybe a little bit of a workaround for that. So let's first talk about how to log restaurant foods and restaurant items in MyFitnessPal. Okay. First things first, if you go to MyFitnessPal and you're going to add a food, let's say you're going to go out for lunch, you can add a food, of course, hit the blue plus button at the bottom of MyFitnessPal. Once you've pressed that, select the meal you want to add, so lunch in this case. Once you're there, on the right-hand side of the search box is a little GPS pin. And with that GPS pin, you can click on that. That's the restaurant search feature. So some of you may not know this, but MyFitnessPal has a restaurant search feature that uses the GPS on your phone to locate restaurants that are in your vicinity. And you can also see which of those restaurants have their nutritional data in MyFitnessPal. So that would be the first step. My first bit of advice for clients and members of ours when they're eating out is, one, select a restaurant that's going to have their data in MyFitnessPal. Okay. Second thing is, once you've done that, what's really cool is you can add the meal. You can filter by calories. You can also filter, if you have the premium function, you can filter foods down by macronutrients. So I know I've used this feature fairly recently. Went out to Red Robin with the family kind of unexpectedly. And before we went there, looked up their restaurant menu items on MyFitnessPal through their restaurant search feature. Once I found their restaurant search information, I was able to quickly look up something that fit the calories and macronutrients that I was looking for. And I was able to do that by filtering. So you can filter the calories once you've selected the restaurant, once you've found the restaurant. It's going to give you all the food items. You can actually select to filter by calories from low to high. You can also select to filter if you have the premium function. I believe it's only a premium function, where you can select by macronutrients. So specifically, let's say you want to filter out fat, you can put that I want to see all the items in the restaurant search feature that are like 25 grams or less. Next thing that you could do, if a lot of times clients will say, well, the food isn't in MyFitnessPal. I'm not sure exactly how am I going to enter this because the information's not in their restaurant search feature, or I can't find it in MyFitnessPal. Common issue, especially if you're going to a like mom and pop place. But the second step I would suggest, after looking it up in MyFitnessPal, don't find the information, is go on the restaurant's website and actually find their nutritional information. I'd say probably like 7 out of 10 restaurants these days are going to have their nutritional information broken down for you. So they're going to give you the item, they're going to tell you how many calories typically, and even better if they can tell you how much protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And what you can do with that information once you have it is, of course, you can create a custom meal in MyFitnessPal with that information. So, restaurant X, let's say, you look up their information online, you see calorie values, proteins, carbs, and fats. You create a custom meal, you plug that information in, and now you've saved that information in your database in MyFitnessPal for the next time that you go out. Taking a step back to kind of talk about what I had said just a moment ago in the restaurant search feature, one thing I recommend doing in advance is kind of even from home, or if you're on the road in a hotel, is using that GPS pin to find restaurants that are in the area that do have their information on MyFitnessPal. That's going to make it a little bit more convenient, okay, a little bit more helpful. So we talked about how to log restaurants in MyFitnessPal using the restaurant search feature, the pin, how to filter calories from low to high, high to low, also filtering by macronutrient. We talked about how to add things that were not in the database as a custom meal in MyFitnessPal. And lastly, the last thing I want to talk about today was going to be why eating out at restaurants may actually be stalling your progress, okay? Here's the deal, guys. The FDA, on foods you have at home, foods you consume, whether they're packaged foods, the FDA allows a 20% margin of error on those foods. So let's use any food as an example. We're going to say wheat thins, a box of wheat thins. So you flip over the wheat thins on the food label, and you're going to be able to see that it's got so many calories, protein, carbs, and fats on the nutritional label. However, the FDA allows a 20% margin of error over or under. That being said, you may assume you're consuming 300 calories as said on the nutrition label, when in fact you could be consuming as low as 240 calories or as high as 360 calories. Now that's not with restaurants, okay? That's the 20% margin with foods you eat at home. And that's governed by the FDA. Now here's why the restaurants may be stalling your progress. There's no governing body that actually regulates the restaurant nutritional information. Okay, I'm going to say it again. There's no governing body that regulates the restaurant's nutritional information. So I can have my own restaurant, we'll call it Copper State Fit Sandwich Shop, and I can produce and pump out food and make sandwiches. I can put nutritional information on my menu, on my website, get that uploaded to MyFitnessPal, but nobody's going to check for the accuracy of that information. So that is why you may actually be stalling your progress. Some crazy stuff. Journal of American Medical Association did a study in 2010, and they looked at home food products as well as restaurants, and they found that the food items at home were actually about 8% over what they claimed they were, whereas restaurant items were about 18% over what they were, okay? So 18% over means that you're probably, oh, and one more thing, the 18% over was on the light menus. So the study was done on restaurant light menus and found that even on the light menus, they were 18% over. So again, nobody's checking this information, nobody's regulating it. So that being said, no pun intended, you're gonna have to take that information with a grain of salt, okay? The Wall Street Journal also did a quick look at these types of things, and they found that it could be off anywhere between 110% to 195%. So the moral of the story is the accuracy of the information you're being given is probably not as accurate as you may think. Therefore, if your progress is stalled, if you're trying to lose weight and you're not losing weight, my advice to you would be to stop eating out or reduce the amount of times that you're eating out for at least 2 weeks to see if that makes some changes for you, okay? So here's some action steps. So we talked about why you might be stalling. If you're stalling, we said, probably don't eat out for a couple weeks and, see if that makes a difference. I'm pretty sure it will with most of our clients that are stalling, struggling. A lot of times we look at things like that, and if they're eating out frequently, we'll usually have them stop for a period of time. If you must eat out, which I understand, a lot of you travel for work, a lot of you entertain clients and have jobs where you do have to eat out. So here's my advice for you is first things first, if you're gonna eat out for lunch, dinner, is choose a place where the consistency is gonna be greater. The consistency is going to be greater, guys, at franchise restaurants. And by that, I mean places that have systems in place that are consistent and pumping out a consistent product. Ideally, places too, like, let's just say Wendy's, for example. A Wendy's chicken sandwich is going to be much more consistent time after time, restaurant after restaurant, no matter where you are in the country, than would be Chipotle. Why is that the case? Here's why. You have a different person serving you every time at Chipotle, scooping out a certain amount of beans, a certain amount of meat, a certain amount of guac, a certain amount of cheese. That variance is going to be very, very wide if you're eating out at places like Chipotle. So my suggestion would go to places, probably franchises, where you're going to find more consistency. You got to keep in mind too, they also have to keep a certain profit margin. So most of these places where they don't have, somebody serving you up the food and scooping stuff like they do at Chipotle are typically going to be very, very precise on their portion sizes because they've got a profit margin to keep. The next thing too, really the last thing, is to order off the menu. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to tell the waiter or waitress that you have food restrictions. You don't have to tell them you have food allergies. Maybe you don't, but food restrictions, use that word. And let them know that you need to order off the menu. So you can order things like a grilled chicken breast. You can order steamed veggies. You can get a baked potato. And when you do those, ask them not to include those things with oil and to put any type of condiments on the side. So if you're going to add sour cream or butter or things like that, put those on the side so that you can better eyeball the portions that are going to go on those items. Last thing I'll share with you guys, and then I'll wrap it up and let you guys ask questions if you have any, is salads. Everyone thinks that I'm going to go to the restaurant and the better choice is going to be the salad. I would venture to say that most of the time, the salad is not the ideal choice when you're eating out. What I would suggest that you do when you're eating out is you're always first picking a protein, okay? Lean protein, chicken, turkey, some type of fish. That's the first thing that you're looking for, okay? The second thing is vegetables. Lots and lots of vegetables. Ask for those to be steamed. The third thing is going to be your carbohydrate source. Again, rice, potatoes, more veggies. And lastly is going to be your fats. Okay, those are going to be the things like your sour cream, butter, and things like that. So again, if you have to eat out, ask to eat from items that they can prepare off the menu and let them know that you have food restrictions. So that kind of wraps it up, guys.